January 16th, 2024. Well, I want to get into kind of the world strategic or military conflict situation that we're involved now. But before I actually address that, which is the primary topic of this video, I do want to make a comment. Of course, we just had the Iowa caucuses, and of course, as expected, they came in pretty much like everybody thought, with Trump first, and DeSantis came in second, with Haley and narrowly slipping in behind him. I guess some of the late polls had turned around, but I think there's a distinction between the kind of softer voters that Haley was relying on and a more determined get out the vote effort that DeSantis had. Of course, Trump is 30 points ahead of DeSantis, so and that's kind of what I thought would happen. So we'll have to see how things go forward from here. There'll be, of course, the next week you'll have the New Hampshire primary, and Haley should outdo DeSantis in that one, but Trump, I think, will still win, although it'll be a tighter win than there, because you're going to have a lot of Democrats crossing over to try to undermine Trump. But anyway, enough of that. I just wanted to kind of hit that. Yes, I am watching that too, but I'm really mainly here talking about the world, kind of the military situation, which is, there's two, well, maybe kind of three fronts right now. There's of course, the situation in Israel versus Hamas. There's the situation in the Red Sea and with the Houthis, and then of course we have, of course, the Ukraine-Russian war, or as the Russians call it, special military operation that's ongoing. So let's, I guess, let's hit the Israeli situation first. Of course, we have the ongoing absurd claims that Israel's operation is a quote genocide. I mean, out of over 2 million people, how many people have already been killed? I mean, no more than maybe 1%. So I mean, that's not, and none of those, as far as we know, hardly any of them, other than the Hamas personnel, were directly targeted. It's the collateral damage when you have conflict, particularly in this dense of an area, and it's tragic. But I don't see any sign that the civilian population is deliberately being targeted. It's just that sometimes maybe, there are cases where perhaps not sufficient care was being given. But at the meantime, I think that the Biden administration is kind of still in a squeeze politically, because some of its more radical elements are turning on him because of this situation, and so and yet he kind of has to go forward with it, because the alternative would be that the another major faction would turn on if he didn't stay where he was. So okay, then of course we move on to the Red Sea, which is related but a little bit different in the sense that it's Iranian escalation and trouble. At least finally, the administration has finally got its gumption up and starting to strike back on the Houthis, which should have been done earlier. And I understand now there's actually been some interesting missile strikes within the last day or so from Iranian forces against American targets in Erbil in Iraq. So this is an ongoing thing. I doubt it's going to really escalate to a full-scale conflict, but there will be those tensions. But if you like these videos, please give me a like. Always looking for more subscriptions, and of course, you can also follow me on the Rumble channel with the same name, if that's your preferred site. So that's kind of it. I think that. I think as far as the situation in Israel has scaled back their ground operation considerably, maybe somewhat due to pressure from the administration, but I think a lot just due to the fact that they've mobilized a tremendous number of reserves and have had them going for over 3 months. At some point, they're going to have to scale back just for economic reasons and to keep their economy going. I mean, this is. And I'd also think that although there's a lot of bold claims up front about how that they were going to totally eliminate Hamas, as degree of that's integrated into the Gaza population, I tend to think that's kind of unrealistic to really expect they're going to be totally eliminated. The issue is, will they be beaten back enough that they won't really cause a major problem for a few years. I think that's almost the way of all Arab-Israeli wars. No victor, no vanquished, ultimately in the ultimate sense, but tactically and operationally, there are victors and vanquished, and usually Israel comes out on top operationally, but the other side always comes back to fight another day. But then we move on to developments in the Russia-Ukraine war. As always, the Ukrainians can always surprise the Russians with a clever little sucker punch. They're very good at that. And of course, the latest one is this apparent shoot down of the A-50 aircraft, which is a radar early warning and control aircraft, basically. It's their analogous to our traditional AWACS type airplanes we've had for years, and it's a very valuable aircraft, and they have a very low number of them, and so they're still operational. So that's a significant tactical blow for the Ukrainians. And of course, the question is, how did they pull this off? Well, I've been looking at it, and I think the different scenarios. It looks to be like it must be that they used a Patriot PAC-2 type missile, system which has a range of 160 kilometers. This is the anti-aircraft variant as opposed to PAC-3, the anti-missile variant, which they would be using against, say, some of the ballistic missiles that have been fired into Ukraine. And it looks like, for what I've been able to see, what research I've come up with, it looks like they have probably moved a Patriot system relatively close to the battle line, somewhere in Zaporizhia. And I saw one chart which says that the 160 arc would put them into where the patrol pattern of these Russian planes and that missile system might have overlapped, and that seemed to be the most probable thing that happened. There's only other possible I could think of would be if a really long-range air-to-air missile had been deployed, such as the Meteor missile of the European manufacturer, and maybe somehow outfitted to a Ukrainian aircraft. I don't think that really is the case. I think it probably is a Patriot, and I mean, it's kind of amazing how sometimes I have to consider that the Russians were a little slow on thinking about things. They're amazing. I mean, after losing several fighter aircraft to the same tactic not that long ago, they didn't start thinking, well, what else could they do with this kind of tactic? And apparently they didn't think it up again. You kind of wonder what's with these guys sometimes. But I mean, by simply altering the patrol path just slightly back a little bit, this wouldn't have been possible. And it's also interesting that the Ukrainians are willing to take these kind of very, very valuable Patriot system, because if it had been detected by a Russian drone and targeted, they might have lost one of them. But at least that's what it looks like. Interesting development. We'll see what happens next. On the other hand, it's possible that this vaunted, this Institute for Study of War, that's out there that makes all kind of, commentary on this thing, had been predicting that there would be a Russian offensive, which may have actually started. We'll see, in the days ahead, what that leads to. But it looks like there's a kind of an ongoing offensive that Russia's now kind of escalating a little bit. And we'll see, kind of how far they can get with that. And the Ukrainians, of course, are still lacking supplies that they would be getting from us. I mean, here we're 3.5 months since the planned appropriate money ran out. And of course, this is tied up in the battle over the budget, and particularly the supplemental, which includes the Ukraine aid, but also deals with U.S. border security. And certainly conservatives are trying to, particularly on the House side at least, trying to tie the two together and insist on border security measures. And of course, I've addressed the latest developments in my previous video, which you might want to check out if you haven't seen it already. The one titled "Oh Hell No," because I'm like, it looks like that this Senate bill that we're negotiating is kind of a pretty much a sellout, and I'm opposing that, of course. But in fact, I've called my congressional Senate and House people uh, very recently to oppose this. Um, I think we need to have a tougher bill. But anyhow, because that's tied up and the two are linked, until somebody can work out what the resolution is going to be, it's going to be a slow aid there. So it gives the Russians, say, a target time of opportunity. But, sooner or later, I think aid will get appropriated. It's just kind of my opinion, knowing the ways of the Washington. I think that probably will happen. And I know what I want, what I think they're going to do. So, anyway, so that's that. And the other development that's kind of interesting is there's some talk of Switzerland being involved with some kind of peace negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. It really, I don't think, has started yet, and it's unclear where it's going to go or what terms there are. And it looks like there is a little bit of interest, but maybe on the part of Ukraine. I mean, they're going to have to act tough going into it. Obviously, they can't, look too weak. And it's unclear whether Russia's really to the point where they're prepared to cut a deal yet or not either, because one of the big fears Russia would have would be that if a ceasefire were arranged in which there was no real political settlement, all that would do would be to allow Ukraine a chance to regroup and upgrade their military and absorb a whole bunch of new Western weapons, which we would then have time to produce before they launched another offensive sometime in a year or two. And given that situation, they might not be that keen on it. On the other hand, Russia's only a couple of months away from their own presidential election, and so that could have an impact on Russia wanting to at least appear to be interested in peace negotiation. So anyway, so that's kind of the situation overall, kind of a roundup of everything. We probably expect a little bit more action against the Houthis, I think, in the days ahead. And there could be some clashes with Iran eventually if they keep shooting missiles at American targets. So anyway, that'll be it for this time. As always, of course, we'll be mentioning, I'll be posting this on Rumble as well as on YouTube. And the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below, and you can follow my ongoing activities and things particularly on X, which is where I post the most frequently. Although I post these videos on all the other ones as well, and sometimes post other things as well. So until next time.